It's a fun weekend. Well played hockey on two very different rinks, but I thought our guys were able to play our game for the better portions of it, which obviously allowed us to have some successes both Friday and Sunday afternoon. So, good effort by Steve Mastalerz to get the victory for us tonight, and a lot of good things happening in front of them. So, I'll take questions.
Coach, what were some of the thoughts behind some of the lines juggling? It seems like you were almost going player by committee. Is there any thought behind that, or are you just going with what was?
The Jacobellis Walsh power unit stayed the same. We had moved Patrick Lee earlier to the middle. He had played center in junior. We wanted to make his transition to college hockey a little bit easier, utilize his speed in the first half of the year out in the open ice, but we weren't getting the productivity over the dot on faceoffs that we wanted to up and down the lineup in the middle. So, and then again, so we put him back in the middle tonight and moved Ray back in with Kravchenko and Vetrano. So it's really just one piece that moves, and then you wind up slotting a few guys around them then. So, but for the most part, it was, like you say, individuals working together, regardless of who it was on both Friday as well as today.
Do you think this was one of your more well-executed games of the year?
Friday night was about the same. Last Friday against UNH was about the same. For the better portion of the second half of the year, since returning from the break, we've been pretty good on most nights. We probably didn't have, the big mistake that plagued us on Friday in the second period. And that was probably the biggest difference. We shook up the forecheck a little bit tonight from what we did on Friday, but was equally as effective in taking pucks away, and I thought that was a big part of the weekend.
Did you guys think there was an X factor, maybe something you did exceptionally well that beat Merrimack, or it was an overall team effort?
We're fed by taking away time and space, and that's in all three zones when we don't have the puck. But, like most teams, you feed off the energy of the forecheck more than you do anything else. And I thought, again, both Friday as well as today, we took pucks away, or we forced their defensemen to turn back and go south as opposed to going north, and that separated their forwards from their D a little bit over the course of the weekend. I think that more than anything had us continuing to push and step on the gas.
That prolonged 5-on-3, you guys got a lot of sticks and lanes and blocked a lot of shots. Yeah. How important was that kind of as a momentum changer in that game?
Yeah, it's a huge emotional and physical investment for the guys that are out there, and the guys that are on the bench understand that and appreciate it, and so now when they jump over the boards, they're going to be as committed and invested emotionally and physically as those guys were. So there's no question that a big kill in a 5-on-3, with college-age players is a huge emotional boost.
You guys were winning a lot of loose pucks, a lot of pucks in the corner. Were you happy with your team's battle factor tonight?
Yeah, again, it's you have to have a first-to-touch mentality. It's something we talk about an awful lot. And then you've got to be first out number once you get there. So, again, that little, it's a matter of, it's not a big difference. When you're back on your heels and you're up on your toes, it's not a big difference. It's not a big shift, but it's noticeable when those two things are happening. When you're on your heels, it's very noticeable. But when you're out over your toes and you're jumping to loose pucks, you're anticipating where it is. There's a confidence that goes along with that. But yeah, when we can do that and take pucks away and play in transition, we're gonna be pretty tough.
Coach, it seems like since the beginning of the season, at least from my perspective, defense has been getting a lot better, a lot sharper. Do you think that's just from learning to grow as a team, or do you think that's something you guys have been doing specifically in practice?
You're layering, you're teaching, as the year goes on, and there are concepts that need to be grasped early, and those foundation pieces sometimes come slower than you want. So yes, the scheme is, we're much more disciplined in it. We're much better at executing it. A lot of it is as well, again, it's about managing the game, knowing situations, knowing when to just throw something up off the glass, knowing when to take an icing. You know, you've got to manage those little momentum swings and big shifts after a goal or first shifts of a period. You got to know when your guys are long and tired. You know, and we've just done a better job of managing those kind of critical moments where at the beginning of the year, you know, we'd have a 45-second D zone and then we'd still be trying to force a puck up the middle, you know, and then that would force us to continue to play D zone coverage tired. You don't see us doing that as much anymore, and that's just maturity.
How important is Brandon Montour to your overall game, but especially your breakout and your puck possession?
Yeah, he's good at the zone exit, that's for sure. You know, I think he just gives us an element back there of a guy that can make a pass, or he can do it with his feet as well. You know, you're not whole. You know, I mean, we knew he was coming at the break, and you know, everybody was excited for him to come. You know, so it just kind of feels comfortable now that we've got everybody and we're able to, you know, start maybe moving forward at a little bit faster pace than we were in the first half of the year.
How much more dynamic do you think the special teams are with Montour now, having him as a weapon with Toronto with the points on that first unit?
You know, it's nice because it gives us a lot of balance. You know, you look at the, you know, the Walsh and Kravchenko unit and what, you know, they've got a lot of buzz going right now. And, you know, so you're allowed, you know, what it does is it just allows you to slot guys more appropriately. You know, when you're recruiting and you're attracting players and adding players to the mix, you start developing, you know, he's going to do this, or this is what his skill set is best suited for. You know, if you don't have that, now you're trying to, you know, maybe put a square peg in a round hole a little bit in those situations. And, you know, again, now it allows us lefty righties and, you know, allows guys to be in positions that can really highlight what it is that they do very, very well.
I think that, sorry, go ahead.
This was Steve's first win of the season.
Yeah.
Also like seeing him on the line.
You know, I mean, our guys were so upset that we couldn't get him the shutout. You know, guys are just so fond of Steve and, you know how hard he's worked over the course of his career, and obviously the wins haven't come easily for him this year. So, you know, it was nice that he gave us an opportunity to win. It was, you know, heartwarming to see, you know, how excited our guys were for him, both on the ice and in the locker room. It's nice to see our guys really, really be angry that we gave up a goal at the end of the game. You know, that just goes to show, you know, how strong our room is right now.
Do you think this win will help the momentum a little bit going to BU on Friday?
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of continues a string for us. You know, again, we're trying to build all year. Again, it's never as fast as you want it, but we knew we were going to have some ups and downs. Like I say, I think you're seeing that, you know, our ups are more consistent and our downs are fewer and further between. So, you know, today was just another step forward for us to continue to try to be a better version of what we were a month ago or 2 months ago.
Friday was too special time again.
Yeah, you know, you're seeing, you know, last Friday, you know, we're in a tight game with UNH. They score, we score. They score, we score. You know, we're able to hold a lead against a good offensive team. You know, yesterday we get behind against a good defensive, or excuse me, Friday we get behind against a really good defensive team and a great goaltender, and we're able to battle back. You know, today we get a 1-goal lead, and we can step on it and get a second goal, and now we're able to kind of, you know, play with that lead. So you're seeing things that were hard lessons for us to learn in the early going, just seeing us be able to handle those situations better.
Yeah, it was good. It's definitely longer than expected, you know, so, but I just told myself to keep working hard and practice. You know, it's kind of hard when you're not playing a lot and just practicing is your action, but, you know, just keep working hard. That's what I keep telling myself, and it paid off.
He's ready for Friday, so it's bad.
Dennis, another 2-goal night. Points seem to come in bunches. How do you think you're doing that this year?
You know, I'm trying to work hard every game, you know. Sometimes it comes, sometimes it doesn't. You know, just tonight I guess the puck wanted to go in. You know, sometimes, you know, make a pass here or shoot here, it doesn't go in, or, you know, unlucky bounce. But, you know, tonight was just a good night, I guess.
Steve, what'd you think of the guys in front of you, especially on the penalty kill?
Yeah, it was huge, definitely. I know Old came out to me after, he's like, I'm going to be hurting for days here, you know, so he was blocking a lot of shots, so it was good, you know. Obviously, it's not just me or Dennis, it's whole team win. every team in hockey, so that's the only way you can win this league. So it was good.
You guys have been on a little bit of a roll. How do you think you're feeling locker room wise as a team, just bonding together as a group?
You know, we're just keep staying calm. You know, we're not really worrying about anything. You know, I don't think everybody's being negative anymore or any, like, I think there's a lot more happiness in the locker room, obviously. Guys are just pulling together and, in a sense, digging in and working on the details, the little things, obviously penalty kill, power play. Everybody's just working hard and trying to make each other better. So, you know, it's a good atmosphere in the locker room, and, you know, we're going to keep trying. Even if we lose or we tie, it doesn't matter. You know, we're going to take a game by game. So.
It's obviously anytime you score, it's a good feeling. But is there an extra kind of good feeling when you score, you know, last minute of a period, first minute, like your goals, your goals?
You know, I don't really think it matters. I think it's more of a, like, just, you know, it matters in the situation of the game. You know, maybe they just had a power play or we did. You know, it really just depends on the situation of the game. I don't think it's really the time of the game. Obviously, it's great to score at the end of the game in an empty netter or right off the bat on your first shift, but I don't think it makes a difference. I think it's more of just, you know, getting the energy and the momentum for your team.
Steve, you were getting pretty beat up there in that with all the bodies and sticks and pucks flying around. Did that affect you physically at all throughout the game?
No, not really. In the second period, I took one right off the quad, so that just kind of stung for a minute. But besides that, you don't really think about it after the fact that's happened. So.